Time.
Okay, welcome everybody to the LOCAC meeting, the Land Use Committee of LOCAC. I'm Jim Salio. I'm going to be running the meeting. So this is like when you get your airplane, your pilot's license, you get your first flight with the instructor. This is my first flight with the instructor with Trish. So after that, I'm on my own. So hopefully we don't crash and we make it through this okay. So um, call the order. I'll call the roll call. Got Molly,
Here.
Trish,
Present.
Gary,
Here.
Brad,
Here.
Becky,
Here.
Jacob.
Present.
Okay. And the only there's Larry. Larry just showed up.
Yay.
Larry, are you here? He's still muted.
Oh,
He's muted.
There he is.
Mute.
Hello.
Hello,
Larry.
Larry.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. So we're all present. We have a 100% attendance. That's great. Chairperson announcement. I have no announcements. Molly or Trish, do you have any announcements?
Not tonight. No.
And then rest of the council member announcements. Are there any announcements?
I just wanted to check. I sent an email to, I thought, all the members with some pictures of down by First Street. And I just want to know if people got it and saw it. And,
I did.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
it, Larry.
I don't think I got it, Larry.
I didn't
Okay.
either, Larry.
Okay, I'll try to send the new members.
Yeah, it's probably yeah.
Yeah, an email update and stuff. And I do need the email for the new person from the county. That
Oh, Mason, Denny.
is that who it is?
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, and I could include them on things. That's the only question or announcement that I had.
Thanks, Larry.
Except
Any other?
Saturday
Go ahead,
was
son.
great. Saturday was a great turnout for those that went downtown and stuff.
Oh, downtown, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to get into politics, but it's
That's
good
right.
to see it.
Okay. Then if there's no other announcements, anybody from the public, I have Jeff or Matt. You guys are muted, so I'm gonna unmute you. If I can do this.
Good evening.
Matt, Jeff, any comments from the public?
No,
I know
I'm here for the agenda item. That's about
Right.
it. Thanks.
Yes. Okay.
Matt Cook. I'm just here to listen in.
Okay, sounds good, Matt. Okay, then let's hearing no comments from the public, then let's go ahead and jump right into the agenda item. And this has been before us before. This is the permit for the condominium project. And Jeff, I'll let you lead us in the conversation.
Well, thank you. Good evening again. My name is Jeff Edwards, and I'm appearing this evening on behalf of Leon Van Burden and the project. LOCAC has reviewed this fairly extensively in the past, and I think it's coming to you as a result of a refinement to the project. The county is erring on the side of caution in terms of the tweaks to the project. They recirculate it to you folks. So the key here is that it's changed from a 10-unit hotel condominium to a 12-unit hotel condominium. the change is doesn't affect the footprint of the buildings or the square footage of the buildings. It's simply taking an end unit. If you recall, there are two buildings with had 5 units each in them, and it's taking the end unit of these 2-story buildings and creating a ground level unit that's ADA accessible, and then an upper unit. So it adds, basically converts 1 unit in each building to 2 units, hence the 12 units total. The change was done in part to provide a little bit of a variety, smaller units, more affordable by design, if you will. And then also the ADA component, we thought that was constructive to have 2 ADA units with all the features, not just provided for, but many of the new projects have ADA provisions where they have blocking in the walls for grab bars and so forth. But these units will be fully ADA accessible. So that's the reason for the 2 unit or the 12 units. And then I wanted to mention that there is an error in the project description, that the disturbance area is not 25,000 square feet and change, but it's just under 15,000 square feet. So we'll be clarifying that in our next response to the county. If you recall, this is the final phase, the 5th building, or buildings 5 and 6, the final phase of a multi-phase project that goes back over 20 years. In fact, I'm sorry to say it's 25 plus years at this juncture. So the disturbance area is very small. All the infrastructure is in place. And really, this is just the completion of a multi-phase project. And we think that this particular type of use, that is this, the hotel, extended stay hotel, is very much needed in Los Osos. As many of you know, we have a cap on vacation rentals, residential vacation rentals, of 55. And we're virtually there. I think there are 54 licensed vacation rentals now. And we only have about 100 hotel units in Los Osos. By comparison, Morro Bay, the city of Morro Bay, with a population of about a little over 10,000, they have 175 short-term rentals and 1,000 hotel rooms in Morro Bay. So think this is a much needed project. It's final phase of a multi-phase project, as I mentioned, and we would ask that that we move this along to full LOCAC at the end of the month, and I'm available for any questions.
Go, Trish.
Okay, so I do have questions. Thank you for explaining the 10 versus 12 condos. You only have 1 ADA space for 2 ADA units?
I believe we have more.
I read every word of this document. We're
going to have enough AD units. Now, we do have existing ADA spaces, handicap spaces. So I'll make a note of that, and we'll ensure that we have sufficient parking for those folks.
Okay, that was one question. The other question, if you could explain on page 2, C1, it says ground floor uses and in order to attract customers and promote pedestrian activity, retail uses. And they also are saying that there must be 50% of the lower level must be either glass windows or glass doors. That's on page 3. How is that going to work if they're going to be individual condos? Because you're saying this is a commercial building. I still truly believe this is now 12 individual condos that are gonna be sold individually to individual owners with no lobby. So to me, if you could explain when the county is saying that you have to have 50% transparent glass windows and doors on the lower level, how are you going to do that in a quote hotel?
That's a building permit issue, and I'm really not prepared to discuss that detail tonight. And I'm not really sure that's a LOCAC question, frankly.
It is. It's our job in this committee to ask questions from the report that you presented to the county. It is our job to come up, if we have questions, to ask.
No, we've submitted a number of reports. Trish, I'm not clear what you're referring to exactly.
It is on page 2, C1, and it goes through page 3. Goes through page 3, number 2, page C2. Use of transparent
Okay.
glass windows or doors that together comprise more than 50% of the entry facade at ground level in order to allow pedestrians to see inside.
Hey, you're on, I'm looking at the county's information hold letter.
No, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the whole project that was sent to us.
So you're looking at, I believe, building department comments?
I am looking at comments from, they have comments in red.
That's the informational hold
Yeah,
request.
correct. And then, so I do have that question. If you're not available to answer that tonight.
Let
that's
me
fine. We'll-
take a quick peek. Again, those comments are from the building department,
Mhm.
and those are captured typically during the building permit review, which is well after the land use. But okay, let's see, you're looking at,
Page
You're
3.
looking at design guidelines, item C, it's on the,
It's page
page 2
3
of
of
7.
7, 3 of 7.
but are you looking at design guidelines at the bottom of page 2?
Yes.
Okay,
okay.
Well, it starts
So-
at the bottom of page
Yeah.
2 and then goes
Yeah.
to page 3.
And this is on info hold number 4. That's what I have a 7-page information hold letter
Mhm.
from the county
Correct.
dated March 19th. And you're referring me to page 3. And I'm not seeing that.
Okay.
What date is, there's a couple different what informational hold, is that what you're looking at, Trish?
oh,
Well,
this
I-
is
There's so
their-
many documents.
I am looking at what was sent to us for us to review.
And that's
Yeah,
building
The letter
department
from-
comments. And
the
they,
letter from the county was dated December 21, 2024.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the one you're looking at, right, Trish?
Okay.
Correct.
that,
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking
just
at,
printed off what we received to review.
Yeah,
so I'm looking at the March 19th, 2025 letter.
We don't have that
We
one.
don't have that, yeah.
we
Well,
did, well, it's
yeah, of
all
course you have
on,
it.
yeah, we have it. That's what's all's on, that's why we sent the link to the planning department's website. It's all there.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
on
so
there.
many attachments for this
Right.
project. It's
So if I may,
complicated.
the
I was just gonna say, there's
planning-
no 319 I'm looking at permit slow, and it's not on there.
Right, we don't have the 319 letter.
We don't have that.
It didn't get posted on the county's website.
Yeah, the most recent one I have is from February 26th.
Well, I can forward that to you.
Okay, let me just, okay,
Yeah.
so that's one of my questions that will need to get answered.
Yeah, let's just
by the
put that
LOCAC
down as a
meeting.
question.
The other question is, it says that it's requesting a parking reduction. page 3, which you don't have the right document. So parking is one of the questions we talked about, the second AADA sites for the hotel. What is the status of the waiver for no lobby or employee area?
It's active and part of the application.
I don't
Okay.
believe anything's been decided on it yet, Trish, if that's what
Okay.
you're asking.
And are these 12 units still going to be sold to individuals?
That's what a condominium is. It creates individual ownerships. Yes.
Okay.
At least that, what the owner does with them after they're developed, that's another matter. But
I
he has
mean,
that
could
option.
they become vacation rentals then?
No, they're not vacation rentals.
Okay.
These are hotels.
Those
I'm
are my
sorry.
questions.
So they could be rented out like hotel rooms, but they're not a vacation rental, but vacationers are renting them.
Correct.
This is commercial retail,
Mhm.
commercial retail land use category, and hotels are an allowed use.
Mhm.
Right, but it's condos, not hotel rooms.
Mhm.
Whether it's a condominium, the only thing condominium means, that doesn't mean residential. There are office condominiums, there are industrial condominiums. So the notion of a condominium simply refers to the nature of the ownership, individual ownership. Doesn't imply anything as to use.
So question, you said that the owner can do whatever they want with it. And are you talking about Leon? Like, it's going to be his building. He's
Yes.
going to sell but he can sell them off. So it's up to him. And then the individual owners can decide to turn them into vacation rentals.
No, you need to, it would be helpful for you to review the coastal zone land use ordinance provisions about hotel condominiums. It spells it all out. There's a maximum number of days that an owner can use the units, and the remaining unit or remaining time can be devoted to visitors, as it's a hotel.
Right. I think the confusion, Jeff, is when you say that they can sell them off. I mean, then somebody else would own them. Somebody would own a unit besides Leon. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
and typically there's not a lot of hotel condominiums in our county. There's one
Right.
down in Oceano Pacific Plaza, and typically what happens is owners use the units for weeks during the year, days, weeks, and then when they're not using them, they're required or they're limited in the number of days that they can use them.
They
And
can't move in full time, right?
that's correct. That's right. So they can offer them when they're not using them. They'll put them in a pool, and they'll be available for people to rent. And they're being designed, as I've mentioned, for people that want to stay maybe more than just a night or two. They could actually stay for 3 or 4 days, and more extended stays, and bring economic benefits to the community.
So question is, then is there a limit on how many of non-owner days can be filled with vacationers?
No.
But now, can't the vacationers can only stay in them for so long, though, right?
Yes, they can stay up to 29 days.
29
Right.
days. Okay.
Mhm.
But it could be rented out all year long.
Sure, absolutely.
And there's no limit, so the owner doesn't necessarily have to stay in it at all.
No, there's no obligation for the owner to stay.
I'm sorry. That's just
Can I make a comment?
Eh,
I was involved with the vacation ordinance
Mhm.
thing that the county came up with. My main concern with it was losing housing, community housing from the public. So that was a big concern. this is not housing for the public. You know, because it's in an industrial area that is not residential, that is designed for industrial, for a business type thing. Are you
Well
understanding
characterized.
are you understanding the difference? We're not losing housing. This is never designed. They can't sell this as condominiums, as housing for people to live in. It's not. It's an industrial. It's being built as a hotel, as a short stay, whatever you call a hotel, in a commercial area. Now we want to change the rules and say people could live in these condominiums because they're in a commercial area. That's a whole different ball game. You know what I'm saying? We're haggling here over vacation rentals that these could become, but they're hotels, so they already are vacation rentals, just not called vacation rentals. They're called a hotel or a motel or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and
Go
because they're retail condos, they have their own rules.
Yeah, and they're not. And I've heard issues come up, about parking and extra traffic and all this. The property was designed and approved for commercial use, and it's going to have extra cars there, and it's going to have extra traffic no matter what gets put there. Offices, they've tried a few wineries there, um, it's commercial. That's what it's designated and built for, and it's been approved for it already. Now they're just tweaking it because they don't need office space here in Los Osos, but they do need guest quarters, for tourists. And I if they wanted, if these were houses that people could live in, I'd say no, make them apartments and make people live in them, and that's what we need here. But they can't do it. It's commercial. It's commercial space. They can't. It's not
People can't live in it. Right?
Yeah, people can't live in it.
Like you can't live in your office.
Yeah.
Here's a question.
That-
So
that-
they're
that's all-
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry.
No,
So
go
they're
ahead.
considered extended stay, and you can stay in there for 29 days. Can they leave for a day and come back for another 29 days and basically live there all year? What are the rules on that?
Yes, they could. If they got caught, they'd be busted. What code
But we
enforcement?
know,
Maybe
that
Jeff could answer that question because
Yeah.
he's got this whole proposal for some kind of covenant about what people can and can't do, and they have to report back to the county about it.
Well, these are mainly ordinance provisions that guide the operation of this use. And we're going to follow those guidelines. And I don't see this turning into a permanent residential use. I mean, I just can't see as a practical matter people coming and going and making that their primary home. I just it's not practical, and it doesn't fit the business model. So that's that.
That's a good question for planning because there probably is an ordinance that specifies that, because that would seem like that would be gaming the system.
Well, right. And I was going to say, and as we know, code enforcement on vacation rentals and stuff is basically non-existent in this town. We have way more than 54 vacation rentals.
Right.
Well,
But you have to catch them first.
Well, right. And then you have to think on your neighbors, which I really think is rotten, but
Well, and you have to prove that they're just not visiting, Molly.
Okay, I have a couple questions for Jeff. So is all the info hold stuff, have you responded to all of it already, or is there still more stuff coming?
we have, as I mentioned, the March information hold letter number 4.
Number 4,
We're in
okay.
we're in the process right now of responding. We've if you look at there's it does a different approach. He lines everything out that's been completed. And so there's about 4 or 5 items left. We've handled like 4 of the 5. We're finalizing the last item right now. Should have it done by the end of the week. So
Okay,
we're down to just a handful of items. And as I mentioned, we should have them in, if not this week, next week.
okay.
Is I'm sorry, Molly, I just want to clarify, that's what the status is right now for the project is informational hold.
Yes, and hopefully after we resubmit responding to the number 4 letter, we're going to get a letter of acceptance that it's accepted for processing, and then we get to start. So
Yeah, I'm not sure why we got it before it was finalized, but anyway, be that as
Well,
it may. Okay,
yeah.
I went out to the site and took a look at it, and I noticed that on the plans, the 2 proposed buildings are 35 feet height. That I'm not great at estimating height, but it looks like the existing buildings that are closest to these 2 proposed buildings, they look more like about 25 feet. Do you know if that's correct? The existing buildings are quite a bit shorter than the height of the 35 feet.
And you're suggesting that the plans show that our 2 new buildings are 35 feet tall?
Yeah, that's what it
It
says.
says.
Yeah,
I don't think that's accurate. This is a 2-story building. 2-story
Right.
buildings are typically 24, 26 feet. So
yeah, that's what I thought. That's why it stood out to me.
yeah.
So
Now where are you reading that from, Molly? Are you looking at plans?
I'm not I was reading it from the document that we got from the county, but
And is that what date? Is that the last year? Is that number 3?
The one,
that's that
the
same
old
document.
letter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah, that's old. I'm not really, I can't say that these buildings are not 35 feet tall. I can say that with I mean,
Okay, so they may
That's a
have a
3-story building.
lower height proposed.
yes.
That would be good, because only half a block away, there's single family residences.
Yeah, the 2 new buildings are gonna be, in terms of mass and scale, very similar to what's right next to it and what's in the vicinity.
Okay,
It's all
okay.
gonna mesh. There's nothing gonna be projecting to that height. I don't know
Okay.
where that came from.
All right, another concern I have is the whole thing with which we probably hashed through already, but hotel versus apartments versus vacation rentals. So since you're applying for a waiver to not have to have 24-hour staffing and not have any amenities like a lobby or places for staff, all that kind of stuff, how would I guess how would the people, whoever is running this whole hotel, how would they deal with emergencies in the middle of the night? Because that's one of the main things. I did some research in the fire code and talked with other people. And
Great question.
it's not saying the fire code's not saying necessarily you have to have 24-hour staffing, but it is saying you need to have people there to deal with emergencies and be trained for that. So I'm wondering how the person you're representing, how they would deal with that.
Sure. That was, by the way, one of the 5 remaining topics to address on the 4th info hold letter, coincidentally.
Okay.
So what we did is we reached out to a professional, Resolute, and they've crafted a letter that has responded in detail to that question. We have a program and the plan. So instead of going into more detail, I'll make sure Jeremy gets that letter to you guys as well, so you can see the work that was done on that. It was very well.
Okay, and I mean, do you know what they're proposing in general?
It's a multifaceted proposal. It's very well done. This gentleman.
No, I know him.
He's
I
a
know him.
former CAL FIRE chief in this county.
Yeah.
So he prepared it, and it's spot on. So we'll make
Okay,
sure you get that, everybody gets that in the next go.
yeah, I definitely want to see that.
Yeah.
And then were the 2 ADA units required, or did you just decide to do those?
We just decided to do it.
Like, were any ADA units required for your project?
No, the requirement is, as I referenced earlier, you have to make them adaptable. They have to be, you
Oh,
don't
okay.
actually have to make them ADA accessible. You just have to get them closer to that, which
Yeah,
seemed to
okay.
be kind of useless. So, we've decided to just go ahead and put everything in, build it that way,
All right.
so people can use it.
And when you said you don't agree, that we don't have enough hotel units here, and you compared it to Morro Bay,
Yes.
are you comparing it specifically to Morro Bay, or are you just saying in general you think we don't have enough here?
Oh, I just use Morro Bay as an example.
Because that's a totally different town in terms of
Well,
tourism. They're heavy in tourism, so that's why they.
Well, I think we have a lot of attractions in Los Osos. People love Los Osos, and to have such a limited availability of very, kind of smaller units. I don't think it advantages our community. I don't think it advantages the public. We have people staying in Morro Bay and they drive over here and back and forth. Well, that doesn't help. Additional vehicle miles traveled. So I think we need a balance in Los Osos.
Okay.
Uh,
And if you're not having 24-hour staffing, is there some organization, since all these units are being proposed to be sold off as condos, would there be some organization that takes on the management of the hotel?
Well, there'll be an association, property owners association, if you will, but that it's likely going to be different than the management entity.
Okay,
So-
I'm only concerned about the management, like who's going to book the rooms and deal with the people and all that.
Yeah, that'll all be done. That'll be set up. Leon's going to set that up.
Okay. Okay, let me see if I have any other questions. I think just in general, the hard thing about this is it's the thing of what it's being called. And I understand the county will make a decision on that, but calling it a hotel when it looks like an apartment and it operates more as a vacation rental. I think that's the part that's hard for some of us to get behind.
Okay, so you've got a couple thoughts there. You've got vacation rentals. You're referring to the size of the unit. This is, as was mentioned earlier, this is a commercial retail land use category. This is a extended stay hotel. It fits the provisions of the coastal zone land use ordinance and is going to function as a visitor serving commercial use. It's really that simple. The idea that people have more than 300 square feet to stay in is kind of a nice concept, in my estimation. You could actually have, in one of these units, you could have a couple with 2 kids. It's more suitable for families. And with only 55 vacation rentals in Los Osos, and perhaps there are more illegals, but that's not my issue. This provides a variety, something we don't have now in Los Osos that would be available for visitors. So we think there's a need. We think this is a good fit. Now, so I have notes that you folks don't have the March information hold letter number 4.
No.
You
It's
don't
not
have
posted.
You don't have the fire letter from Resolute.
Nope.
And so I will make sure Jeremy gets those 2 items to you. Do you want to do this again in May? I'm happy to come back.
Well, I'm
That's up to
thinking,
you.
We should,
I
yeah.
mean, normally we don't, Molly had a question earlier and I agree with her, is that I'm not sure why this came to us now when it's still in the informational hold stage. Usually they don't come to us until they're past that stage and those are resolved. And then,
But,
it's
Jim,
ready to move on.
If I may,
Yeah.
80% of the items that comes to this group, this committee,
Mhm.
are on information hold.
Okay.
It's the exception that you have a completed, accepted for processing application when you review it. So,
Well, that hasn't been I haven't been on that long, but it's not been
Yeah.
my experience,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that's not been my experience after
Yeah,
8 years
yeah.
either, so,
And
Yeah.
it's typically not 12 units at once.
no.
so if you'd like me to come back, I'm happy to do so.
Well,
And-
I think you should come back once the informational hold is resolved and it's not an informational hold status. That would be good. And then all the questions, because right now it's hard because we don't have all the informational hold questions that came from the county. You do. We don't have it because it's not posted, and then we don't know what's resolved and what's not resolved.
Okay, sure. Well, I'll talk to Jeremy. We'll make sure you get the items. It's down to very few, as I mentioned, and then we'll plug those final questions and I'll look at the building permit items and see if those are appropriate to review. The way the county works, they send out referrals, and in particularly the building department sends over comments that are building permit focused, and they really don't have anything to do with the land use aspect, but we'll review that as well.
Gary, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I was curious. I know that these are going to be sold, and who will take over the maintenance of the common areas and the structures? Seeing as if you have like one sold, there's not going to be enough of association to maintain the parking lots and the buildings. How is that going to work?
So there'll be a set of CC&Rs for the 10 units, and there'll likely be a common area maintenance agreement. See, Leon owns all the buildings right now.
Right.
Now he can sell them off, but until that time, there's no need for a common area maintenance agreement. So if and when some of either the existing buildings or these new units are sold, there'll be a master common area maintenance, a CAM agreement. So that will speak to, I think, your question. And the maintenance of the 10 units in particular, or the 12 units, 2 buildings, that'll be handled through internal CC&Rs just for that portion of the development.
Okay, I was just wondering if one is sold and I decide to paint it pink and put my truck with no tires in the front, is that okay? Who would enforce that?
Yeah, no, there are no, that's the association that, well, there'll be 2 layers, the association and then the larger property agreement, maintenance agreement. But no pink units, no exterior changes would be allowed under this scenario.
Okay.
I had a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, Jacob.
Sure.
What was it, the splitting of the units from 10 to 12 with the change to these 2 new ADA units, splitting the whatever they were 5 before? Is that the primary driver of the change in water use? The reanalysis that was required that was submitted in February?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so it sounds like right now where we're at is that Jeff, you're going to come back in May. Does anybody have any objections to that? Okay. All right, then Jeff, then if you could get those documents and work with Jeremy on that, and then hopefully when we come back in May, then everything will be resolved, or at least if the ones that aren't resolved, we have some explanation why. And
Sounds
hopefully
like a
then we
plan.
can get this finished up and get you over to LOCAC.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, take it easy. Thank you.
I don't have any business items. Does anybody have any business items they need to discuss?
No. Don't
Okay.
think so.
Then it's,
Oh, do we need to do any vote tonight?
I don't
No,
think
because it's
so.
coming back in May.
Because it's coming back, okay.
Okay,
So I have a-
then, yes, good.
I just
Becky,
have a
yeah.
general question in this, this whole thing just seems like a joke, it's like the same way as we have all these homestays and things that really aren't and all of that. And now we have a hotel that's a condo that's like, it just,
That every unit is individually owned by somebody else.
right. And we know it's not, yeah, anyway,
But it is in the ordinance, and because
Yeah.
we thought the same thing, and that's,
it
we
is, but I
asked.
think it's appalling. And is there something that people can do about that? Because are we going to have these pop up around town? Yeah, whatever. And my general question is, who gets to vote on whether we get turned into a tourist town or not? Do we really, there's people pushing for that. And I know we're land use, but there's a big push to make this town a tourist town.
Mhm.
I don't think we're set up for it. I don't think emergency wise or things like that, there's not new infrastructure or anything that I've seen that's planned for that. Yet there's this push online. I don't know if you guys have been to the Highway 1 Discovery Route thing and seen all the things about Los Osos that are on that are basically bogus greenwashing, that it's, what is it, stewardship travel for good. And it's all BS. So I don't know if you guys are aware of that, or, what do we do as a community about that? Like, who's making those decisions?
I think it's being pushed by,
The hotels.
well, by, yeah, hotels, but in general by the County Tourism Bureau. They're putting a
Well,
lot
it's
of money.
CBID.
They're
It's
putting a lot
CBID.
of money into advertising and
Well, right.
just sell Los Osos. And
Well,
that's,
it is, and it's not just it's CBID, the County Business Improvement District, and they have all this money in there. I've gone head to head with Pandora about this, about advertising the trail in front of my house. And I think when I ask people, have you ever gone on to the Highway 1 Discovery Route site? Nobody knows about it.
I have not.
I haven't, I didn't even know about it.
I
Yeah, I
didn't
never
know
knew it
about
was
it
there.
until you
For
brought it up.
Yeah, well, they were out here with a group, and they were out here again this last year, these guys with drones and cameras filming up on the Broderson Trail. They came out during the middle of the pandemic, and myself and some neighbors got together with Pandora, and I can't remember who the guy is from up in Cabrillo, and they sat here in my driveway and watched what was happening right here. And we got them to not advertise this trail and do pictures from it. Those same camera people were out here a couple of months ago. And when I ask them, they're like, oh, no. But they're like, we're going to bring in tourism. And what's going to happen is all these people are going to help maintain this trail. And I go, yeah, the county doesn't even admit that they have a trail here. There's
Correct.
no maintenance done on it. So what do we do about that? Is that considered land use? Is that considered, I don't know what to do about it, other than we had a giant protest and they backed off, but now they're back here again.
Well, I think that's a good thing to bring up at a LOCAC meeting, and with Ron Munz there and CSD. So the county, controls the purse strings for Los Osos and what happens in Los Osos because we're unincorporated. But the CSD is the district that, has the elected officials to set the course of what Los Osos should be, as
And
much
it's
as they can.
interesting, in researching all of that, I found this brochure from a CBID meeting in Paso. And I'm looking through the brochure because I just Googled some name. I can't remember what it was for. And there in the back is a list of all the people who donate to CBID. Many of them are vacation rental owners in Los Osos. Many of them, you would recognize the names. So it's happening. I don't know, is it with Visit Los Osos or what's going on, but it's like these things are happening with nobody knowing about it and no community input.
I think it's really being pushed by the private industry that, like the vacation rental people, probably the hotel rental people, the restaurateurs, the people that want to make money, they're going to put their money into promoting that. And I don't know that it could even be stopped, even if we wanted to, but,
Well, it's like, how it seems like there should be some responsibility towards, okay, we're bringing all of this in here. And that's the county doing that under CBID, and people donate to
Right.
that. But there's no accountability to, well, there's no trash cans, there's no dog poop containers, there's no any of that stuff to
yeah,
support what they want to bring in. Just like, Jeff is saying, we need more tourism here. Well,
No.
what and there's nothing to support that, even just trash wise.
Hey, I hate to bring this up and cause it's,
Jacob had his hand up
Yeah,
first. I'm
Jacob,
sorry.
I'm
Yeah.
go
sorry.
ahead, Jacob.
Go, Jacob.
I'm just to ask. So I read the Los Osos community plan when Larry first appointed me, because I'm an appointed public member. Larry put me on here.
Yeah,
I read that, and it was to me, it was very loud that it was pro development for the purposes of tourism.
Yep.
I'm not even going to say that I agreed with that, but that's what's in the document. And so that is what got incorporated into this coastal plan that happened. It's what the county is going to be following. I hear it very loudly in this corridor development that we're going to do on LOVR. Lord knows that'll take 10 or 20 years, I'm sure, or something, but big new road, bringing tourists and travelers and visitors and things into town, from the airport. So pushback, sure, if you don't like it, I understand. But my read of it, personal and to me only, is that either the town or that process at least, if everyone's not on the same page, fine, but the process at least produced a document that said that's what the town wanted to do in the future. There's an idea of a giant commercial district down our main drag, and then having tourism out into Montaña de Oro and all this stuff. Additional hotels and everything would come with that. I don't know if that's a good plan or anything else to speak on it, but
right.
I just
Well, and the plan was passed, and if you look at the comments of people that they chose to go with, it basically didn't look like it was the regular community members that decided they wanted this to be a tourist town. And now basically we've lost the coastal commission. They're a nothing.
I had questions about the document because this is somewhat on topic and not, but just as an example, one of the specific concerns I see of people in Los Osos, sorry if I'm inarticulate, but we have a lot of aging people. There was a whole section about aging in place, and there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to go into that with honestly sidewalks and roads and various kinds of accessibility of all different flavors and kinds. And I didn't actually see a huge amount of support for that in the document, even though substantial sections of it were devoted to this future use of the town. There's a lot of people in town. They would like to retire in their lovely little townhomes. That makes perfect sense. But you say, I want this thing, and then there's either no support for it or it goes a different direction. And so I don't know, but that was something I observed.
while we're on your topic, Jacob, can I ask a question of you, which is,
Sure.
Can you explain what you mean about the Los Osos corridor plan being part of the development of tourism?
It just looks like it to me.
Oh,
It's a really great reason to build a giant, huge lane road that's gonna do at least a couple different things, which is improve the accessibility. Honestly, it'll probably speed everybody up or slow them down. We'll see. But we're going to have biking all the way back and forth. That's going to improve all of the bike related tourism and access to people. I understand there's a lot of people that don't like to ride on LOVR because it's dangerous and you're, 4 feet from people going 70 or whatever.
yeah.
And so things that are on that path, that's a kind of tourism. We could,
Yeah.
I don't know, with more hotels, we would need them, but you could have biking stuff coming into town, or people that come visit Montaña de Oro, that's their destination, but they have to come in town somehow. And so that to me like a big road development that goes all the way from Foothill to basically almost all the way out there, to me is like, oh yeah, okay, that fits really well with the other part of the community plan, which was the central business district that road is going to run right down the center of. And so, you know, we're kind of there. We have some of the grocery stores, but like half of that district plan is not done yet. And half of it, I think I don't know what you'd do with Ralph's and that stuff. I feel like the parking lot needs to be redone or something, but to actually meet what people drew in the community plan. But like those things seem related to me. I'm not saying there's some overarching plan where that's happening, but the things plug into itself, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't do one without at least thinking of the other while they're happening.
Right.
And
And that's a
so,
good point too. I don't know if you've noticed how many vineyards have gone in on Los Osos Valley Road in the last couple of years too. So I'm like, oh, is
a
this the
lot.
new
Okay.
wine trail? I don't know. I mean, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, the county is very, very, very pro tourism. It's a huge source of revenue for the county, and we are part of the county. I mean, we have very little autonomy because we're not incorporated. So if the county's driving tourism, they have the most influence in the non-incorporated areas of the county.
Right. Right. It'd be nice to have some resources to support it though, like water.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh,
True.
Again, and Jacob, I want to thank you for bringing up the community plan, because I was going to bring up why we need to get the voice of LOCAC out there, and I brought that up at the meetings and stuff, is so that for the future of our community, we can't stop growth, but we can have a say in how it's done. And that's the important part for us. It's to get the community out there to give us their input, and for us to relay it to the county. That LOCAC has a very important job to do, you know, and and we can't look at it as, we have green zones around us. When I first moved up here, I looked in the valley, Los Osos Valley Road, and I remember growing up in San Fernando Valley, and they just built houses all the way, you know. And I thought that was going to happen to Los Osos, between here and San Luis, that perfect road for building houses. It's all flat, and everything else. Back then, people had the sense to, know we want a green zone around Los Osos. We want to protect things. The community spoke up and created an environment, where it doesn't happen. There's going to be growth in Los Osos once they get this water thing figured out. There's going to be growth whether they figure it out or not. It's important for them to hear from us and the community. That's what we're supposed to go out there, knocking door to door for everybody, to get the backing, so we don't want curbs and sidewalks, uh, these are things we want.
Sidewalks.
If they want to put some hotels in, at least put it in the commercial area, and don't take out the public area for it. um so we are important, and we've got to get communication. We've got to communicate to our neighbors, to the community. Come on. And then we have to make compromises. I'd rather have 10 hotel rooms at the corner of LOVR and South Bay than to take housing away from here, for vacation rentals. My personal opinion, but I've got to make a compromise somewhere.
Right.
They're,
I have a question. How many of you went to the Sunnyside? I wasn't able to go to the Sunnyside Town Hall.
Yeah.
And what came of that?
It was
mean-
great.
I
We
mean,
had
it
a-
really. Go ahead, Trish.
No, I was just gonna say it was great. We had about 200 people there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
lots of support for Sunnyside School.
And was that support for a park or for that plan with all the housing and
It was
stuff?
for a
the
park. It
park.
was
For a park.
Yeah.
only
that's
for
good.
a park.
But-
Only for a park.
What it really was, and I didn't go to it, so I didn't hear, how much are we willing to pay for it a month?
Mhm.
$20 a month, $50 a month?
Right.
$4 a month.
Yeah.
Or
It's
no
it's
dollars.
gonna be a
Yeah.
cost, that's for sure.
Right.
There's Becky, there's talk of, doing a Prop 218 assessment vote and seeing what people think. So the only way, it sounds like the only way we're gonna potentially be able to buy the property and turn it into a park is if we fund it ourselves in the community. So
Right. Right.
there were these surveys put out about, gee, how much would you be willing to pay to have the money go towards parks? And I think, the county's not really willing to put much money into it at this point. I had thought
And the
previously.
survey
What's
that-
that?
On that survey, I was looking on Nextdoor and it looked like there's another iteration of it that came out
There's
again.
2 iterations, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The second one's a little simpler.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we filled out the first one, we don't do the second or what?
You can.
It's up
you
to
can.
you. You can if you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's like doing that vote will kind of give a sense of whether or not it's even feasible or not, because the county is having financial troubles right now. And then we got all the stuff going on with the feds. So who knows what's going on with grants, but that would be a first step to see if people are actually willing to pay for a park. But the good news was that at least the 200 people that were there were very supportive of having a park with lots of different uses. People have
Yeah.
plenty of ideas about what kind of uses there would be. And it was actually really interesting in the consultant that Ron Munns hired from the CSD that they hired to put together,
Mhm.
2 plans, one kind of very basic and one a little more elaborate. They did a good job presenting their information, and yeah, it was really good.
Good. Yeah, I know they recorded it, right?
Yes.
Or
It
no?
was a lot of positive energy. It was really
Yeah.
good to see
Right.
Los
But
Osos
it
turn
was
out like that.
I
It
think
was
it was recorded by somebody. Oh, it's on the CSD's website. Is that right,
It
Trish?
is.
On the
Oh, okay,
CSD's
okay.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been out of town. I haven't had a chance to check that, but I'm so
And you'd
interested.
be amazed, Becky, at like how positive the meeting was. The energy was amazing.
Yeah, well, we've been asking for a park for how long?
Yeah,
Yeah.
4
40 years I've been here.
yeah.
But really, kind of where it's at is that we have to have a 218 vote. It's complicated. They're expensive. And can we raise that money to just have the vote? I think it would pass, but it's a pretty complicated process is the problem.
Yeah, yeah. This is a little off this, but I'm sure some of you have asked or heard people asking our supervisor whether we can see how our tax dollars are actually spent in our town. And we've been told that you can't divvy it, you can't tell because it's all in the general fund. Well, I have a friend who's a former supervisor from elsewhere in California who told me that's totally untrue. I would like to see how the money gets spent in Los Osos because it seems like a lot of it isn't.
Bring
Well, the
bring
county
that
could
up
tell
at
you
the
how
LOCAC
many.
meeting.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
has been brought up at LOCAC numerous times and we get the same answer. So I'm going to see if there's a way, some other way around that. I mean, we should be able to see.
You can, and this is how you ask the question. You say, how much money does the county spend in Los Osos? And they can give you a rest. I mean, because
We've
it's
asked.
complicated because the sheriff, like they're,
Well,
are
right.
they only going to count the time that they're rolling through Los Osos and not in Cambria? I mean, so but you could ask for things like how much they spend on parks, how much they spend on, roads and that kind of stuff. They can get the county, and then you ask how much property tax dollars does Los Osos generate? Because they know that.
Right.
Because
they know
we all
that,
have our.
but we haven't been able to get an answer on it goes into this pot and it's in the general fund and we can't really tell you.
Well, that's because if you ask how much money you spend on Los Osos, that's a complicated question but you have to ask how much you spend for this, how much you spend for that, specific, they'll be able to tell you that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, by department, right, Jim?
Mm.
They should be able to break it down by the department.
Yeah, because they're all projects. They know
Yeah.
how much this project costs, how much this project costs.
It just seems like
But if you
that's
just-
something maybe an elected official should want to tell their constituents. This is what we're doing for you, Los Osos, with your property taxes.
I agree.
But then I dream of a better world, so I'm an optimist.
That's what
All right,
our
we're up-
skate
we're up
park
against
was the last
7:30.
one.
Does anybody,
All right.
are we okay with, it's 7:30? Are we okay with adjourning?
Yep,
Yes.
thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
Great
7:31.
meeting, Jim and Molly.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Yep, have a great
Have a
evening.
good week.
Mm.
Where's the, oh, there's